And we're back with another episode of Superstar Guest Spotlight. So we have Moni Castaneda. She's going to speak about Feng Shui, destiny, and life missions. So it's really, really exciting stuff. Welcome, Moni. So glad.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. This is new for a lot of us. So
Yes.
we're all ears.
Yeah.
so So let me share a little bit about Moni. She's a Feng Shui consultant, speaker, and author. She helps her clients turn their current homes into dream homes where they can live the lives they were meant to live. She uses a 9 steps to Feng Shui system, a step-by-step method she created that blends space arrangement, modern architecture, and alternative healing. So, Moni, you have some explaining to do.
Yeah.
So first, yeah, what would you like to share about your journey and how you gotten to this point?
Well, I grew up in Ecuador, which is a little country the size of Colorado in South America. And I trained to be an architect over there. And it was a long career, it was 6.5 years. And, I graduated 1 month, and the next month I moved to the United States. And when I came to the United States, I found my degree was not accepted here. And I would have to go back to school for 4 or 5 years and do 3 years as an associate before I could even take the boards to practice as an architect. And it seemed like, what a joke, right? You spent so many years going to school, so much work, so many sacrifices, so many sleepless nights and finishing projects, and then nothing. And so, but I thought, I have always believed the universe has my back. I have always believed that anything that happens is going to turn around for my advantage. And that's, actually I found in Feng Shui, which I will talk about that later on today. There's a concept that actually addresses this. It's true. It's true. The universe is conspiring for you. And the things that happen, they're guiding you to a certain moment in a certain series of moments that you're going to experience in your life. And so when I had shared this, my conundrum with a friend, she told me, well, you should look into Feng Shui. And I
Yeah,
looked into Feng Shui, and a series of synchronistic events led me to find Feng Shui, to study Feng Shui, and to develop my own Feng Shui system. And then now I know, okay, the reason I needed to study architecture was so that I would understand Feng Shui more easily, and so that I could translate it for the Western mind and
mm,
lifestyle, and so that people could practice Feng Shui and end up with beautiful homes. And
mm,
so, yeah, and so it was a journey, first studying architecture, and then finding myself like, can't do anything with this, and then finding Feng Shui, and then creating a method that unites three of my passions. One of my passions is Feng Shui, the Chinese ancient art of space arrangement. And the other passion is modern architecture, and the other passion is alternative healing. And so I put these three things together in what is called the 9 steps to Feng Shui system, which is a step-by-step method I created so people can get control of their spaces, so that their spaces become their BFF, instead of being their hidden enemy that's working against them. And so your home, your business sites, they become your allies that are helping you achieve everything that you want to achieve, instead of becoming roadblocks on your way. And so,
right.
yeah,
Because the space is something you're always surrounded when you're working. It affects you all the time.
it
Like,
affects you all the time. The Chinese actually have a saying that goes like this: everything in your home is talking to you constantly. Make sure they
mm.
have nice things to say. So, look around your space and say, what is this saying to me? What is that bookcase saying to me? What is that painting saying to me? Are these good messages? Are these
Mm,
messages that are going to help me become the person I can become, fulfill my potential? And are these the kinds of messages that are going to help me get where I want to get, right? And so it's
right.
so important. Your environment is constantly giving you feedback. So you establish with your environment a positive or a negative feedback loop. And if most people, if they're not consciously trying to establish this positive feedback loop, is more likely their home and their business, their workplace, become their hidden enemies instead of being their BFFs, their allies.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's a really powerful story how you're able to to turn around something that may be so, devastating.
It can,
And
yeah, it can be so devastating, right? The news that after you spend over 6 years doing something, you can't use it.
yeah, and so you were
Yeah.
able to get, to tap more into what you truly are passionate about.
Yes.
Is this something you were passionate about before that you had any knowledge about it or awareness of it?
Like how they say hindsight is 2020. I remember when I was a child, and people like to ask children, "What are you going to do when you grow up?" And I remember, like being with a group of friends and relatives and cousins, um, and everybody was answering, And when they asked me, I would see a blank screen, like when you go to the movies before when they have turned on the projector, but there's no image, so there's just that light, that white light on the light screen. And to me, it was like that. I couldn't see it. I just couldn't see it. It was like blank. But there's certain things that I notice now. For example, I had a dollhouse, and I love playing with a dollhouse, but not with the dolls. I was always rearranging the furniture inside the house, saying like, can I do this? Can I do this that way? And then I would do crazy things, What would happen if I moved the master bedroom to where the living room is? And what would happen if instead of this being the bathroom, I turned it into an office? I did really crazy things, right? And so my little friends, I drove them insane because they would cry. They would cry literally because they wanted to play little home family scenes with the dolls, right? And wanted the dolls to have parties and things. And I was like, no, we have to rearrange the furniture. So there's certain things, that I see now. Oh, but when they asked me, what do you want to do when you grow up? I had no notion of Feng Shui. Nobody in Ecuador back then had even heard the term Feng Shui that I knew,
Right.
And so but I can see signs. Also, other things I did, like every Saturday morning when I was like 8 years old, I would get up early, like during the school year, right? I would get up early on a Saturday morning to rearrange my toys. Sounds like such a crazy thing for an 8-year-old to
No.
get excited about, right?
Yeah, that's the last thing on the list.
I know, first you want to sleep in, you're going to play with your friends, but I was like, and I would get up really early. And I had which I know now is bad Feng Shui, and that's probably why it bothered me. But I had a bed that had a drawer that you pull out from under the bed, and that's where I store my toys. Now I know that's not good. You need to have free space under the bed and not use it as storage. But, I would pull it out and I would clean it and get everything out and organize my toys in a different way. Yeah.
So there's some signs there.
Yes. Yeah. And then, like when the way I enrolled in the School of Architecture, there's a beautiful story of how that happened. And in the middle of my training, I was led to enroll in a special project within the School of Architecture, where I met some of my best teachers and where I actually learned some of the aspects of architecture that became part of the 9 steps to Feng Shui system, such as systems theory, which looks at anything at the space as if it was a language, and how the different spaces are related to each other. And then I also studied something called semiotics and semiology, which is the study of symbols and how symbols affect us. And then something it's called topology, but it's like a sophisticated form of geometry, But they're all kind of philosophical ways to look at space. And later on, when I was putting together 9 steps to Feng Shui system, because there's just so much confusion around Feng Shui, there's so much misinformation out there. If you're looking for something on the internet, you don't just find information that's different. You find information that directly contradicts each other. So for a person to try and do this alone can be so challenging because there's so much misinformation.
Right. So, and you were able to put together your own system based on all the different things that you were inspired by on your farm.
Yes, but I had a mentor. I had a mentor who's a practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine, because Feng Shui is actually considered one of the 5 branches of traditional Chinese medicine or ancient Chinese medicine. And so that became my guiding. My guidance was, what would you do in acupuncture, basically? So I started looking at Feng Shui as acupuncture for the home. So if you do this in the body,
Okay.
how would you do it in the home? How does this
Okay.
relate, right?
Yeah.
And so that was one of my bases. The other basis was these three concepts that I learned at the School of Architecture, in addition to the traditional Western modern architecture training, and but also alternative healing, because I come from a country, in Latin America, we have something called magical thinking, which you see it in literature. It's called magical realism, is a genre of literature that came out of Latin America, right? And we have this kind of magical thinking because we talk about, in the woo-woo spaces, we talk about the veil between this reality and other realities, and how in the United States that veil is invisible for most people. Most people don't admit that there are other realities other than the one they're experiencing right this moment in their physical body. But in Latin America, it's not like that, because it's a culture that is permeated by the indigenous shamanism. And so most everybody believes there's other realities, and most people tell you stories and things. So
Right.
it's a different way to look at the world, looking at the world as more fluid and easier to change.
So when you grow up with that awareness, it becomes natural for you to think.
Yeah, it becomes natural because you meet a lot of people that will tell you things like they talk to trees, or like my friends will go, we'll go hiking for the weekend and they'll come back and tell you what the boulder in the middle of the river told them.
Right.
And so it's a different kind of reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to space, as you mentioned, nature, a lot of people tend to escape their space inside to go to nature because, like the inside just frustrates them. It's
Yeah.
just too, especially with technology and, the
Hmm.
introduction of of Wi-Fi and all those things,
Yeah.
that affects so much, and we just tend to just escape from it all. But I'm sure you have lots of tips on
Yeah,
on
I have lots of things. I have written a number of books on Feng Shui, that people can explore for that. But obviously, the people were not designed to live in these boxes we call houses, apartments, condos, or the boxes we call offices. We were designed, and for most of our history, we're living in very close connection with nature. And so part of what Feng Shui does is bringing the harmony of nature into our indoor spaces. So we do this through colors, through living plants, sometimes water features, the images you choose to put on your walls, the materials that you choose. And so all these things come together so that you can create inside of the home an environment that resembles a thriving natural environment. And that is the only environment where people can be happy and thrive, right?
right.
And I like what you're saying, late the latest introductions of screens, because we've had TVs for a long time, right? And then we have computers. But now it's these devices that we can hold in our hands, that now there's watches that you can put on your wrist. And so there's this invasion of technology and screens that further are separating us from the natural world. And that has
Right.
consequences, right? And they're not good things. People feel even more disconnected to their source, because we connect to our source when we are connected with nature, especially with trees. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it becomes so, because there's no system to follow in how to reintroduce that. So
Yeah.
it's just it just becomes you know you want your escape route as fast as possible out
Yes.
of
Yeah.
instead of actually working with what you have, your space around you.
And I think it
So
even affects the care of the space, like should I organize my books or should I go on Facebook? What's gonna win?
that's true. Yeah, the
Yeah. Yeah.
priorities.
It's a
Priorities.
temptation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's an addiction to, for like we're getting
Yeah.
accustomed to that.
And
The
yeah. And it's the illusion of connection, right? The illusion of connection that you get when you're chatting with people on social media, because you're not getting true, real connection. It's just the illusion of connection. So people
Right.
come disconnected from their source, which was one of the things when you and I had talked about doing this conversation. We had talked about, what aspect of Feng Shui to share with your audience. And I had suggested, well, let's talk about destiny and life missions, because it's such an integral part of Feng Shui. But in order for a person to fulfill their life purpose, they need to be connected to that source.
Right.
And all these distractions, what they're doing to us is they're making us more and more disconnected from that.
That's
Yeah.
really, really true. To connect to, it's a very simple idea to think about, but what to do from that, what to do with that problem. So you have the solution for
Yeah, what I have, what I wanted to share with you is that the worldview of Feng Shui, which I think Feng Shui, of all the philosophies out there, all the worldviews out there, is the one that most closely helps you understand the world life is, where the universe is, and your role in that world, in that universe. And so first, the first concept I would want to share with everybody is the idea of this contract with heaven. And so in the Feng Shui universe, in the Feng Shui mindset, there's this belief that before you are conceived, before you come into this life through conception, that you make a contract with heaven or a pact with heaven. And this contract is made up of the things that you want to experience, the things that you commit to do for others, and the things that heaven wants you to do for heaven. And so you come here with purposes. And here's the interesting thing, I many years ago, my husband brought home a book called The Purpose-Driven Life, and it was done from a Christian perspective. But it was one of the first times that I was introduced to the idea of, hey, you have a mission, you have a purpose. You're not just here just to hang out. There's certain things you need to accomplish. But when I encountered Feng Shui, I saw in Feng Shui, we divide the space into 9, and each of those represents a life area. And one of those life areas is career, life mission, and individuality. And so I thought, how curious, that it's actually a life area. But it became even more interesting when I connected with my mentor that practices traditional Chinese medicine. And what I learned is that actually it's a part of acupuncture. It's part of the health of a person. So there's actually protocols that acupuncturists use to help a person when they have deviated from the fulfillment of their life missions. And there's actually, isn't that fascinating? Because it's in the body.
I have to look up that.
Yes.
Acupuncture too.
Yeah, and there's actually, like people can get ill with a particular syndrome when they are not doing what they came to do. And so that brought it home to me, it's in the body.
Yeah,
your
it's
body.
connected to health.
It's so amazing because you actually can get you can get ill from not obeying that voice, your contract with heaven, which is an agreement you made. It's not something that's imposed on you, but there's an agreement you made to do the things that you need to do, right? And I think most people, when they feel they're on their path, they feel happier. And it's like, sometimes you can only see like what your life mission is or was on hindsight, but you can always know in your heart what is the next step for you.
Right now, what's the next thing?
Yes.
You don't have to see the whole journey ahead.
You don't have to see the whole picture. You don't have to see the whole map. You just have to know you are on the right path, and that the next step that you are taking is keeping you on that path, which is the right path for you. Yeah, and so that's the first concept, the idea that you have a contract with heaven, and that is your destiny, which in Feng Shui is not understood as fate, but as potential. Your destiny is your potential to fulfill your life missions. And so the second concept I wanted to share with you is the seed, SEED, right? So the seed is this energetic construct that comes with you when you are born, which includes the family you are born into, who your parents are, who your siblings are, who your extended family is, the nationality, the culture you're exposed to, the language or languages that you learn in that home, and many other things, many other things, including your genetics, your tendencies, the habits of the family. But here's the interesting thing, as you go through life, the seed is alive and it
Um,
adapts to your circumstances. So if you mess up, the seed enters like a recalculating mode, like, when you're driving with the GPS and you miss your exit, and then there's the recalculating to get you to your destination. The seed does that. It does a recalculating of the life circumstances around you and adjust them so that you can heal from whatever you need to heal, so that you can learn whatever you need to learn in order to do what you came to do. And so I think, that's the evidence the universe really has your back. And sometimes, people, something bad will happen to the person, and the person will say, well, that was a blessing because as a consequence of that, I did this other thing. As a consequence of that, I met this healer, I met this teacher, I found this book, right? And it's not that the universe is sending you a punishment to set you straight. It's that when something happens, because there's a lot of randomity in this physical earth plane where we live, right? So when something bad happens, the universe reorganizes around you so that you can still have this chance to do what you came to do. And that actually, that seed also has a physical location in the body. Then there's something called the vector. The vector is the direction that your seed sends you in. So when you're born, you're set in a certain direction. Now, there's, some people say, well, why would a person choose to be born in a dysfunctional home, for example, or to an abusive parent? Or why would a person choose to be born in a bad situation, like in a country where there's a lot of violence and that? But the thing is, like, what the seed looks for is to put you in a place where things are not a deal breaker, right? And so I have a friend whose mom committed suicide when she was 10 years old. And she still went on to be a nurse, to be a wonderful Reiki practitioner, to be a fantastic mother and an asset to her community. So for her, losing her mom was not a deal breaker. Does that make sense? So you are put in situations that you can handle. That's basically it.
Okay.
You're put in situations that are going to give you your best chance and that you can handle. So you're set with a certain direction. That's your vector, right? But your vector can be changed because sometimes things happen or sometimes you miss certain opportunities. And so there's certain things that will happen in your life in conjunction with the seed to change the direction you are going. And so one of the things that Feng Shui does for people is to change the direction in which they're going, because sometimes things happen, and sometimes, for example, one of my favorite clients, the client histories, was the case of a couple who had been told they could not conceive. And they didn't just work with me, they work with other healers, with other practitioners, with doctors, in order to reverse that statement that they had been told, hey, you are sterile, you cannot conceive, right? And so one of the things they did is Feng Shui, and we worked on making their home safe for children, because their home wasn't safe for children. Like a lot of young couples will do things in their home that are just, like a child would literally die there. Like they get a lot of, like might get a coffee table that is all glass, like metal with glass, and they have sharp corners. I think, a child there, that's dangerous for a child. And so you see that, and you see this change in the vector of this couple, where they go from a point where they had been told, and they believed the doctors when they told them you cannot conceive, to see them do that 180 turn in their vector, where they're now, they're expecting their first child, things like that, And you also see people who are in the wrong profession, and they're super unhappy. And then they start doing Feng Shui, and they start changing their vector so that it's more aligned with their life mission or their purpose. And then you see a huge increase in happiness when they do that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And so go on.
Especially when sometimes you're in that space and you are disconnected or not as connected as you could be by doing things around you. It
Yes.
can help open up a path for you to see better and take that step that's more aligned with you.
Yeah, and so that's in your life, but it also applies to business. You give your business a direction, and sometimes you have to make course corrections. And so, because things change, like, for example, like a lot of people right now are realizing if I don't have an online presence, my business is not going to grow the way it would grow. And that means they have to do a direction correction. They have to correct their vector. And so
Right.
their potential to fulfill their destiny is going to be affected by their ability or inability to change the direction of their vector when it needs to. Because then comes the next concept I wanted to share with you, which is the Feng Shui approach to free will. And so the idea is you have a contract with heaven, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you are following your path, you are happier, you are healthier, you are stronger. When you deviate from your path, you get problems, you become unhappy, your health may suffer, right? Because you can't say no. So some people rebel to their contract with heaven. They're like, I don't want to do that. I don't feel like doing that. I have to go to school for that. I don't want to study that. Or some people, that so much has moved into the online world. Some people are like, I don't want to study marketing, and that is against my sole purpose of being a healer or whatever, right? And so people can become resistant, and people have the free will,
Stubborn.
right? And actually, from the Feng Shui perspective, you can get off your path for quite a while without suffering consequences. Like you can say in life, you can say, I'm going to take 4 years to do this other thing, and I'm going to really enjoy it. Like I'm going to become a tour guide in a cruise ship or something, and I'm going to go and just enjoy my life for the next 4 years and not do anything that I consider my mission. People can do that. So there's a lot of leeway, but most people, they are rebellious when they feel the pull, which is a pull like gravity of their life missions, because they have forgotten they agreed to this. That this was not something imposed on them, but there was something they agreed to before they came into life, right? That's the idea behind Feng Shui. Then there's another concept. The fifth concept I wanted to share with you is that of Wu Wei, which is translated as the principle of non-action, and sometimes misunderstood, because it's not like you're going to do nothing, but Wu Wei is more like you take action only when it's necessary. You only do the right action. You don't exhaust yourself. And sometimes you don't act because you're waiting for the right opportunity. So, for example, say that you're waiting for a bus, like you're in a city and you're waiting for a bus, and you're trying to go to a certain neighborhood in your city. And a bus comes, and you're like, a bus, I'm going to get on the bus, But when the bus gets really close to you, you see that that's not the bus that's going to take you where you want to go. It's going somewhere else, right? And so you take the non-action of not getting on that bus because you're waiting for the right bus to come over, So Wu Wei has to do with that sense when when it's not the right time to take action. And when you do take action, there's these beautiful concepts in Feng Shui of doing your work and doing today's work. So there's two things, your work and today's work. And I see, like so many people, they waste their time and their energy and they deplete themselves trying to do everything instead of paying somebody to do things for them that could be much better done by a professional, right? So like some people I know cut their own hair, and sometimes they nail it, and sometimes they don't, and then they spend the next month and a half or two with bad hair. And so it's doing your work, doing the thing that you came to do, especially doing the things that only you can do. That's super important. You need to focus on the things that only you can do and be willing to ask for help for the things that other people can do for you. That's part of this concept, right? But also doing today's work. Because I don't know about you, Sasha, but for me, sometimes I get on a roll and I can't stop. I start working on something, like I start working on graphics for my website or whatever. Focused. Yeah, you're so focused and you're being so productive, right? And then and then you don't stop, and then it's midnight and you don't stop, and then there's 2 in the morning and you
Oh,
don't
I know
stop,
about
right?
that.
You know about that,
Yeah.
you do that.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that you need to remember. I'm only expected to do today's work. I don't have to try and fit this week's work today. I don't have to try and fit 3 months work this week. And
And what
so,
if
yeah,
what if it like you're trying to catch up on work that you didn't do, and you're like you like put extra work into to
like,
catch up
yeah, like, well, if you have
on
procrastinating, that
yesterday's on
that might be
yesterday's
different, right?
work.
But also, Wu Wei includes procrastination. Sometimes you procrastinate because you're being lazy, or because you feel like, watching the show instead of doing what you need to do. But sometimes you procrastinate because you're not ready. Like, your deeper mind hasn't done all the processing that your brain needs to do for you to be able to write an email or to write the sales page or whatever it is that you need to do. And sometimes you're not ready for other reasons, because you're dealing with a physical challenge, because you're going through an emotional hard time. So Wu Wei also helps you understand that sometimes procrastination is the right thing to do. Sometimes you don't need to do things that you're not ready, because when you try to do things that you're not ready to do, they're harder and they take longer. If you wait, Wu Wei, if you wait to take action when you are ready and then take the right actions, then it's going to be so much easier. It's a little bit, like when you play dominoes, when you put all the pieces of the domino, the rectangles that you stand up in a certain way, right? And then you do the push to one, and that creates a chain reaction. So Wu Wei is part of doing that, like getting like all your ducks in a row and then doing that first push to the domino. So it's really aiming to use the minimum amount of work that you can get away with in order to produce the desired results.
Yeah,
And
because
that's a good
sometimes
thing.
sometimes you enjoy doing the work so much, right? You get lost in it, and
Yeah.
you overdo exert yourself because you're not connecting on different levels with what's going
Yeah,
on.
and also sometimes you're not giving yourself time to recover and replenish your own energy. I've seen in some of my friends and clients who are healers, sometimes they'll take on too many clients in a week and then they get depleted, right? And so Wu Wei has to be with this managing time and managing effort, basically. And so the next one is the concept of the human being. And Feng Shui, seen as part of ancient Chinese medicine, defines the human being as a two-part soul. So it is heavenly fire acting on energetic water. So the body is considered energetic water, and the spirit is the fire from heaven. So you get a human being. A human being is a two-part soul made up of the body that is your gift from the earth and the spirit that comes from heaven. When you put them together, you have a human being. So that's another super interesting thing that you see in Feng Shui. Now,
Where
yeah,
where does the other element, the air element, come in? Or
the the elements in Feng Shui, you have 5 elements in Feng Shui, but that's
okay,
different. This is more
okay,
of a spiritual, energetic concept. So it's not
okay,
the fire element is heavenly fire, and it's not the water element; it's energetic water. So it's
okay.
different. It's like a vertical concept. And so energetic water represents the physical world, and the heavenly fire represents the spirit, right? And so what I find super interesting is that the physical world is considered fluid. And if you think about it, people say the human body is at least 70% water. That's a liquid. If you look at the planet, 70% of the planet is covered in oceans. That's liquid. If you look at the earth itself, most of the earth is actually in liquid state. The magma, so there's a solid core for the earth and there's a solid crust, but the in between is actually liquid. And here's where that's so important in the Feng Shui lifestyle, is that because you see the physical world as fluid, you understand that by making simple changes in your space, you can produce tremendous changes in your life, in the way you think, in the way you make decisions, and in the actions that you take. And so that's the beauty of that, right? That The world is fluid. It's not static. It's not solid. And it's very easy to change by making small, simple things. And so the next concept number 7, is that of connecting heaven and earth. So the human being is a two-part soul made up of a spirit and a physical body. And the mission of the person is to get inspired with ideas that come from heaven. That's your connection to the spiritual source, right? That we talk so much about. And so you get that connection, you get the ideas, you motivate yourself through your human emotions, and then you produce actions in the physical world that generate particular results. And if you think about it, the times in your life, if you think about the times in your life when you were happiest, usually started with a really great idea, a lot of happy emotions that led you to do the work, and then the result, right?
And so, like the excitement, and you can't sleep because you're thinking about this excitement.
I know that, like that feeling, that feeling when you really feel you're on your path, and when you really get these ideas, this inspiration from heaven, and you wake up, and instead of going like, oh, the alarm, I have to get up, it's so hard, it's like, oh my gosh, I get to get up and write my book, another chapter today, things like that. And so wouldn't it be beautiful if we could always be like that? If we could always keep this connection, so that every morning when we wake up, it's like, man, I have so much to do, and every single thing I'm going to be doing today is something I love. Wouldn't that be a wonderful way to live?
Because you actually enjoy what you're doing too. It's not like you're forcing yourself, or somebody's forcing you.
And it's almost like, like when you see little children, that's what they're like. They wake up and they get excited about the things they're going to do that day. And then as you grow older and you become an adult, you're like, oh my God, it's morning already, right? But if you have a passion that is in alignment with your life mission, then that's different, because you wake up and you're like, I have this to do, and it's really exciting, right? And so concept number 8, which I'm sharing 8 concepts with the audience today, is the transmuting power of heaven. And so to transmute goes beyond transformation. Whenever we're talking about transformation, we're talking about things that can be changed within the laws of the physical world, within the laws of our physical reality that we inhabit, right? But sometimes you confront problems in life that are not so easy to solve. Sometimes there are things that are really difficult to do, or sometimes there are things that feel impossible. So I have worked with couples that were so disconnected from each other that it seemed impossible to them to stay together, like they were on the brink of divorce, right? And so then when Feng Shui comes in with this transmutational power of heaven, and you do these cures that are powerful symbolic cures that override the physical reality, which is kind of like, in the movie The Matrix, like kind of going back into the program and rewriting the program of the reality that's manifesting. And so in Feng Shui, we do that. And usually when we do one of these cures in Feng Shui, it's the symbolic spiritual cure. We use a tiny bit of the color red, because the color red symbolizes that energetic fire, that heavenly fire, right? That is able to change things instantaneously. And so sometimes, you find a problem that is expressed in the Feng Shui of the home, and it seems it's impossible to fix. So then you do a symbolic cure, because you can't actually do a physical cure. And many times, the most powerful transformations you see come from those. And so let me repeat the concepts that I shared with the audience today, right? So number 1 is that you have a contract with heaven, and that your destiny is your potential to fulfill that contract. Number 2 is that you come to life with a seed, and that seed has the circumstances to help you achieve what you want to achieve. Number 3 is the vector, that your life always has a direction, and sometimes that vector gets off your path, and you need to do something to get it back on your path. The 4th one is that you have free will, and that your contract itself is a product of free will. But you tend to be happier when you align yourself with your contract with heaven. Number 5 is the concept of Wu Wei, how you manage your time and your effort so that you can get away with achieving maximum results using minimum effort by applying actions at the right time, the right actions at the right time. Number 6 is the concept of a human being being a two-part soul made of the spirit and the body. The spirit that comes from heaven and the body that's the gift from the earth. Number 7, that the function of a human being is to connect heaven and earth by contacting inspiring thoughts from the source, motivating themselves through emotions, and doing the right actions in the physical world. And number 8, that you can, through prayer and certain symbolic feng shui cures, you can ask for the transmuting power of heaven to intervene and help you resolve those problems that seem to have no solution.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is so profound.
Yes. And I am so fascinated. I know transmitting this knowledge is part of my mission because I get so happy when I share it.
Yeah, it is exciting, and it helps give some kind of structure to, that process of embodying your mission, like the
Yes.
support that you can get in doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm so glad that you have found your your divine mission, and that you're lined up and you're here sharing with us, teaching us about this. The captivating messages and everything around this is really eye-opening. And I know a lot of people, they're not familiar with that connection, how Feng Shui can really help us, get into more of our
Because
paths.
most people see it as some type of interior decoration, right? But it's
Yeah.
actually a way to reconnect to the source of everything and have a happier life, And and so I teach people to turn their current home into their dream home. And their dream home is that home that's going to enable them to live the life they are meant to live and to realize their full potential, to become that better version of themselves. Yeah.
Nice. So you have any special offer for us today, or anything that you like us
Well, I
to
have some resources, right?
Sure.
And so what I share with you, I have written a 3-part series, which is Feng Shui for Business. So there's volume 1, there's volume 2, and there's volume 3, because I do the 9 steps to Feng Shui, right? And so each of these books deals with 3 steps for business. Now, this book, Feng Shui Your Own Business, volume 3, steps 7, 8, and 9 of the 9 steps to Feng Shui system, this has everything that I have shared with you in detail. So there's a whole chapter devoted to that in this book. So fascinating information. But for people who are just becoming familiar with Feng Shui, this is the book that I recommend. It's the book that I recently wrote. It's called Room by Room, Feng Shui Secrets for a Happy Life. And it's available in Amazon Kindle and as a paperback. And soon it's going to be available also through Barnes & Noble and iBooks. And so the special offer is that we have an introductory price. The regular price of the Kindle version is $9.99, and right now it's $3.99 for you to get this book in a Kindle version, so the electronic version of the book. And so I wrote this book. This book is the story of 4 generations and 3 homes. And the 4 generations are my grandmother, my parents, me and my husband, and the 4 generations are children. And the 3 homes are my grandmother's homes, my parents' homes, and our home. And the reason I wrote this book is because I wanted people to make an emotional connection on why Feng Shui is important. We know today that our environment is so important that it even changes our gene expression. We know that, cell biologist Bruce Lipton has studied this a lot, how just your environment and your perception of the environment, not even what's going on in your environment, but how you perceive your environment, affects even your genes. It affects your thoughts, your emotions, the chemistry produced in your body, but even what genes get turned on or off. So it's just so important to make your home into your BFF, so that every time you come home, you feel supported and you get this really good feedback that those things, all the things in your home are saying, you're such a great person. You're a good person. You're productive. You're organized. You're tidy. You love others. You are forgiving. You are loving. If your home is telling you these things, life becomes easier and it becomes happier.
Yeah, and especially today, a lot of people feel alone, like they may not be supported by people around them, or
Yeah.
they may be isolated from friends or family. They may be,
Yes.
in a distant country. So that's really important. If your space can give you warmth and love too, that
Yes.
surely go a long way.
Yeah. And there's so many things, like this came to my mind as you were saying that. And so I feel like I should share that. For example, there's a way you can arrange your family room that is going to make you have less friends. And there's a simple change that you can make so that you can have more friends, that you can have more of a social life. And so the thing that you would do to have less friends is to organize your living room or your family room as a movie theater. So
Mm,
so that you end up doing, the only thing you do for fun is come home and watch a movie or watch a TV show, right? Sit on a couch, snacking and watching things on TV or on your screens. If you do that, you're going to have less of a social life. But if you do not make the TV the center of your attention in your family room or living room, and if you
mhm.
arrange the furniture in ways that would promote conversation if you have guests, your mind is going to lead you to have more of a dynamic social life, which is going to lead to friendships. It's going to it's going to also yield business relationships and maybe even a romantic relationship if that's what you're looking for, right? And
Yeah.
so that's just one room. So what this book does, it goes room by room. It tells you what to do in the foyer, what to do in the living room, what to do in the kitchen, the dining room, the hallway, the master bedroom, children's bedrooms. And so it's a really fascinating book. It's a book of stories, but I have been so surprised to see how much people learn from these stories and how many changes they are making at home just from reading those stories.
Yeah, stories are really powerful, and you are really great at sharing them. So
Thank you.
that's I sure that's one of your gifts that you use a lot.
Thank you.
So I know we could go on listening to you because this is really captivating information, and
Yeah.
it's something that we all need to look at to help us on a part, like simple things that we can do to make a difference that goes a long way. And Moni
Yes.
has books, and you can check out her website. Moni, can you share your website?
Yeah, the website is, of course, no spaces, right? It's 9steps to fengshui.com. But,
Okay.
I know that a lot of people don't know how to spell feng shui. So I also got spacearrangement.com. So if you type spacearrangement.com, it's going to redirect to 9stepstofengshui.com.
Nice. They got that domain name.
Yeah, yeah, because people are like, well, how do you spell that? How do you say that? Yeah.
Yeah, so you can check out, and you also offer services.
Yeah, I offer services. I offer home and business consultation. It's all done online. All my services are online, long distance. And you can also find the books there. There's a link for books and shop for books and things. And so you can find links to all the books there. And there's also hundreds of articles on my blog that you can start exploring.
Wow, that's like a whole new world.
Yeah.
So whenever you'll want to learn more about Feng Shui, how you can actually use it, to in more than just the decorating. It has so many other benefits
Yes.
attached to it. Check out Moni's website and her books, and maybe you'll get some ideas too. So Moni, thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah, it's I'm just speechless right now because it's just so much information that you share with us. I'm really grateful for you for coming and being so generous with your information and your passion for this topic, which it came after some challenges on your part, but you've turned it around, and
Yes.
you've come now and are sharing with us. So
Mhm.
really grateful for that. And we're gonna wrap up now. And
Okay.
Winnie, if you have any last messages you want to share with us as we
Yeah,
close.
Yes, like a lot of people, they do vision boards, and in the vision board, they put an image of their dream home, right? But I want to remind everybody, you have a home right now, and you can start working right now to turn that home into your dream home. And
Mm,
so that you can start being happy now in the present. And then
right.
having a dream home, turning your home into a dream home will make it more likely that one day you might get that dream home that you have put on your vision board.
Yeah,
But start
that's a
now.
good
Yeah.
that's a good reminder. If anybody's procrastinating about doing, doing something like that. Yeah. It's something for us to think about more for sure. So we're gonna wrap up now. And yeah, this was another guest spotlight with Moni Castaneda sharing about Feng Shui and how it relates to your purpose, your destiny, your life's mission. And so we're going to go now, and I hope to see you again for
Yeah.
another,
That'd
yeah,
be great.
sometime again on, to explore this topic or another topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another time. So bye everyone. Bye, Moni.
Bye bye.